Welcome everyone. My name is Nancy Cattle and I'm your host today. This webinar is called How to Stay Sane, Well, and Patient, and it introduces a course and community that I developed for working professionals who find themselves in a caregiving situation. My experience has been with Alzheimer's and pancreatic cancer while trying to hold on to a job and stay focused. It's not easy. Alzheimer's robs our loved ones of rational thinking and it makes caregiving extra hard. So that's been the basis for my course. Here in the webinar, though, I'll try to keep it generic so that it helps any caregiver. And we're going to start with the beginning issue of not really wanting to be a caregiver. That's pretty much the first step. So I think I've gotten pretty good at being a patient caregiver. I helped my mother care for my father who had Alzheimer's, and years later she herself had a short battle with pancreatic cancer. And I can't help but think that since she was healthy her whole life until a few years after her husband passed away, her lack of self-care caused her to develop cancer and other illnesses. I just can't help but think that her immune system was so worn out from the sleepless nights and endless caring that she succumbed to the illness herself. Other people say this too. I believe not taking care of yourself while caregiving is absolutely harmful down the road, even if you feel okay now. So it's really, really important to discuss this topic and to have people do what they can to keep their own sanity intact, their own health intact. And one way to do that is to be more patient. So we're going to have a valuable 45 minutes today. I want to share some tips on how to stay sane and patient, and we can take some questions too. You can type in the chat if you're on the computer, or if you're on the phone, I can open up a Q&A line as well. So let's get started. Don't you just love cat pictures? There's a nice quote by Rosalind Carter, a former First Lady. There are only 4 kinds of people in the world: those who have been caregivers, those who are currently caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need a caregiver. That's a little profound. Here are some statistics. 1 in every 4 people know a caregiver, and 12% of the working force needs to quit in order to be a caregiver. Those are pretty astounding facts. And that's not just Alzheimer's, that's in general. Still a staggering amount. And a lot of people are caregivers, but they don't even realize it. They don't think of themselves as caregivers because they do a little bit of care, but it's not full-time, every day, that kind of thing. The good news is there are some companies that do support employees during these difficult times, and hopefully a whole lot more are to come. If you're interested in statistics, alz.org has some very good infographics and information on other statistics. But for our purposes here, I think it's enough to say it's a staggering problem, and that's why you're here. And let's see if we can do something to help people. So, what's your story? Recently I was working in New York City, and I overheard 2 ladies in front of me on the line for the bus in New York's Port Authority. And they were talking about caregiving. And the one woman apparently had this long experience. And after a while, after talking to this other lady, she was saying, I wish I were more patient. She explained to the other woman that she regretted not handling the situation better and that now it was too late for her to improve. And she used the word improve, and she used the phrase, I wish I were more patient. I think the word patience really does sum it up. If you had nothing else to do, you'd probably find it easy being patient, right? If you don't believe it, think of your situation at work. At work, are you less patient when you're busy? Are you more patient when you're not very busy? Are you more likely to chit-chat with a colleague and smile when you're not under pressure to get a job done? Yeah, probably. I know I am. So let's take Jane, for example. Maybe this sounds like you. Jane has a family. She has a job. She's married. Maybe she's got some kids. She certainly has bills to pay. And now on top of all that, she's a caregiver. She worries a lot. She asks questions. She says things like, oh gosh, but I don't want to be a caregiver. And I don't know what to do. I feel helpless. Maybe she says, I can't keep up with the demands of my job, the family, the caregiving. Or I feel like life is passing me by and I resent it. Sometimes she feels that she's afraid she'll make the wrong decisions and then she'll feel guilty. And after a couple years of this, she may be screaming, I can't do this anymore. So these are some common concerns. What else worries you? If you'd like to share, you could type it in the chat. In the survey results, I also saw other. So for those of you who said other, I'd be curious to know what else you feel you worry about. So today there's lots we can talk about, but we're going to narrow it down to coping with the idea of caregiving and becoming more willing and thus more patient. So for me, after a while, I felt like I was going to go ape. Not in a bad way, though. So for me, ape means attitude, perspective, and empathy. Or you could say abundance of patience and enthusiasm. Or you can make up your own motivating acronym. Attitude is a big part of it. So it can get us through a whole lot of stress. It's very scary being a caregiver when it's new to us and we don't quite know what to make of it. We don't know what to expect. Maybe whatever disease or situation we're dealing with, we haven't dealt with it before. We're just one of the family, and this comes upon us, and we have to be a caregiver, and we just don't know what to do. Perspective helps us cope. It may not be as hard as we think. It's just new. We have to figure it out. We can figure it out. And empathy means just putting ourselves in their position. And before getting stressed or upset, just think about what that person's going through, and that can help calm us down too. So let's assess ourselves for two things: patience and your level of ape. So I'm going to pull up a little questionnaire for yourself. You can download this. I have it on my wall. So obviously you can't check the boxes online at the moment, but that's okay. I just want to give you a feel for this. And it's all about, do you have enough patience? So you're going to rate yourself. So some things are not going to be true, some things are going to be very true, and you obviously want them to be very true. So let's go through these. It doesn't bother me when asked the same question repeatedly. Is that 100% true? Not all true? Or somewhere in between? It doesn't bother me when my loved one does strange things. It doesn't upset me if and when I'm called names or yelled at. I don't try to rush when helping my loved one with a task. I keep my calm at all times. It doesn't bother me when I'm called for help at a moment's notice. I don't get impatient with other family members who don't help. I can juggle multiple things at one time. I'm flexible, can go with the flow when my loved one doesn't want to do what I want them to do. I'm grateful I can provide assistance and care. So in the beginning, we probably are pretty much not all true, most of these. And as we go through time and learn a few things, hopefully we get towards the column on the right, which is 100% true. Let's do one more. Do I have the right attitude, perspective, and empathy to be a great caregiver? So again, we're going to rate ourselves on the same type of scale. And I have 20 items here. And let's just go through, maybe I'll do half of them so we don't have to go through them all. The first one says, I have the positive attitude needed to get through this. Not at all. 100% true, or somewhere in between. You have the right perspective to make it easier emotionally. You have empathy for what they're going through. So those top 3 questions, that's what we're focusing on in this webinar. The rest of them are covered more fully in my course if you're interested in more help, but I'll talk about that later. Are you patient? Can you say, I have accepted the fact that I'm a caregiver, this is a priority now? Can you say, I'm an excellent caregiver? Can you say you keep a little time for yourself? Okay, so there's all kinds of questions here for you to review. So you can download this, and you can fill this out once a week, once a month, and track your progress. And I think you'll feel better, and you'll be happy in doing that. So with this quick review of the questions, what would your gut feel? Where do you feel you are? You feel overwhelmed? Well, let's see if this sounds familiar. Who? What? Me? Typical reactions include shock, worry, concern, denial when you're faced with caregiving, and particularly if it's a disease like Alzheimer's, dementia, anything where the person is incapacitated. We ask, are we sure? What's the cure? Can it be cured? Why did he get it? What does this mean? How did it happen? So it's a whirlwind of emotions, and it might leave you daunted. You didn't ask for this, right? You don't want it. You may be thinking, God, I can't bear to watch them decline. Or you may feel, oh man, I feel so helpless. I feel so hopeless. So the extra challenge, if we're talking about Alzheimer's, is that it's not even like caring for a child who grows up and gets smarter and more independent. It's quite the opposite, and that really does take a toll. And I'm sure the same for some other diseases where people, physically lose their ability as well. But with a mental disability, the person loses their ability to hold a conversation, and they can't enjoy the simplest things in life anymore. Then they lose their ability to groom themselves and perform basic life functions. So it's really, really hard on them. And, of course, it's hard on you. So our goal here is to just accept the responsibility as a caregiver, make the most of a very sad situation, and perhaps, get the help we need, and make a change. Not just a change, but shift our thinking. Truly shift our thinking. Okay? Shift our actions, shift our thoughts, and really desire to go ape. But I mean ape in the good way, by improving our attitude, perspective, and empathy. So, what do you say? Enough chit-chat? Let's get specific with some ideas that can help you. So first of all, let's face it. Who does want to be a caregiver? Who grows up thinking they can't wait to become a caregiver for a parent or a spouse? No one I know. But instead of asking why me, ask yourself, why not me? So adjust your attitude towards the situation. Shift your thinking to realize that as life goes on, elders often need care, and their spouses and their children are often needed. And when you get old, you're going to want someone to step up and care for you, right? So, these are just 3 questions just to start with to see if it can help you, refocus. And it may help to focus on some motivational phrases, and I have some here on the screen as well. You could say, if you're dealing with your parents, you can say, they changed my stinky diapers as a baby, so the least I can do is return the favor. My mother used to say, I'm just going to take it one day at a time. I can do one day at a time. One of my favorite expressions is go with the flow. And if you break it down, it may not be so bad. So this one particular task, for example, making dinner, isn't so hard, right? So just look at each individual task and say to yourself, yeah, I can do this. And if you're dealing with a situation that involves caregiving, you should expect that you're going to be challenged in many ways. You can take on the challenge. And there's a quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Because it may be an issue of not wanting to do it. It may be an issue where you think you can't do it. So if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. So think you can. And my favorite book as a child, The Little Engine That Could. If you're familiar with the story, the tiny little engine had to get over a big hill. Didn't think it could do it, wasn't sure. Talked himself right into it. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. And he chugged over the hill while chanting, I think I can, I think I can. So, can you? So your exercise right now is to come up with your own motivational phrase. I'm going to give you 10 seconds of silence, give you some time to think, and then we'll continue on to perspective. So go ahead, and I'll start counting to 10. All right, and you can continue that after the webinar as well. But let's go on to perspective now. And let's share these thoughts. Ask yourself, do I just need to reset priorities? Life changes over time, right? We get comfortable, we get into a flow, but, our 20s look different from our 30s, look different from our 40s, and then our 50s. So maybe you just need to reset priorities and what's happening. Do I realize the situation is not forever? But my help is needed now. So chances are the situation is not forever. It may seem like it, but it's not forever. However, it's really, really important that you give your help now because, And 5 years from now, your help won't be needed. You can't say, I'm ready now, I can help you now, it'll be too late. And ask yourself, is this really as hard as you think it is? I alluded to that before. Just take each thing that you have to do. Is it really hard? Maybe not, if you really just think about it. And, again, can you take one task at a time? Okay? And not worry about being overwhelmed by a lot of things. And related to the, gee, this is hard topic, is it too hard or is it just inconvenient? In the beginning, it's probably just inconvenient. We're just not used to it. It's a change of schedule. It's really not hard. And one of my favorites is this the worst scenario. I mean, it could be worse, right? And if you join a support group and you hear the issues that other people have, you're more than likely going to be happy that you have the issues that you have. Seriously. So, again, put the situation into perspective. It's part of the life cycle. Just readjust things a little bit. And if you will allow me to be a little bit dramatic, I'll give you another way of putting things in perspective that's not on the slide. Building a pyramid in Egypt was hard. They didn't have the modern tools. There's thousands of slaves. I don't know how long it took. Hard. That's a hard job. And those slabs were huge. I've been there. I vacationed there and I saw the pyramid and those rocks, they're huge. It's hard to tell without any perspective, but that's a very, very tall pyramid. So that's hard. Running over to the house every morning to check on things, relatively speaking, that's not hard. Okay? Our ancestors had to deal with many diseases without modern medicine and doctors, right? They had it hard. We have medicine and doctors to help. So it's not quite as hard. People live a little longer now, have a little bit better off. It may not solve all our problems, of course, but it's a lot better than it used to be. Another example, years ago, people were thought to be crazy and put in insane asylums. Now society understands some of these mental diseases, and we're providing better care. And my fourth and favorite one and last one is going to the moon is rocket science, literally, and it's quite an achievement of humankind. But helping your loved one eat a meal is not rocket science. It just requires a little bit of patience. So now it's your turn. Can you think of a wild and crazy example like this that would help you put things in perspective? So again, I'm going to give you 10 seconds, and then we'll go on to empathy. All right. Hopefully you thought of something, and you can keep playing with that after the webinar and have some more scenarios for yourself. So empathy. So it's important to realize that both you and your loved one have emotions and worries. And here's a little chart for you. Now again, it depends on what kind of caregiving you're talking about. I'm talking about a dementia or an Alzheimer's in particular, but I'm sure you can relate to this if your situation is slightly different. You may be sad. But your loved one who needs the care, they may be scared, right? Scared of who's going to care for them, scared of what's going to become of them, scared if they have to leave their house. They may be scared. You may be worried. Your loved one may be paranoid. You may be stressed. But your loved one may be anxious about the whole situation. Again, they don't know what's going on. Maybe they don't know what's going on with themselves, with their mind, or maybe they just don't know what's going on with the living situation. You think you're getting stressed. Maybe they don't know who's taking care of them because they're starting to get forgetful and can't recognize people. A lot of anxiety. You may be feeling burdened, but your loved one may be scared of losing independence. You may be short on time, but your loved one may be bored and homebound because they really can't do anything. They're home. They can't go out anymore. When they get to a certain point, they have a hard time reading. They have a hard time understanding television. They just really exist. And that's really sad. And lastly, you may be short on patience, but your loved one may be frustrated with themselves because They want to be able to do these things. They want to take care of themselves, and they can't. So empathy is looking at both sides. You have your issues and concerns, but your loved one is really in a bad situation. And it helps to realize that. And in addition to that, again, from personal experience, the following also helped me reframe the situation. I like that word, reframe. It's a shift. You frame it. They're not doing this on purpose. If somebody's got a mental disorder like Alzheimer's, okay, it's the disease. They are not doing this on purpose. And just tell yourself, they're not doing this on purpose. They're not doing this on purpose. They may not even know they're being a problem. They may not realize they've asked you the same question 10 times. And the second bullet, I'm quite sure, they are not enjoying the loss of their mind and function, right? And they're likely terrified what's going to happen to them and who's going to care for them, which is along the lines of what I said in the chart. So those three things helped me a great deal, just to take a step back, breathe, and have some empathy. So for you, exercise number 3, can you think of a wild and crazy example like this that would help you put things in perspective? Okay, I'll give you 10 seconds. Okay, so let's come back. Okay. And let's just talk about a little deeper on some of these things and see if there are any questions. And let me just check the chat, see if there are any questions. Okay, so let me clarify one or two things that I've said, and I see some questions coming in regarding this. I'm not saying it's easy by any means, but I'm saying, you've got the choice here between wanting to help yourself get through this hard time versus just letting it get to you. So what kind of caregiver would you be if you did not try to keep yourself sane? Right? It's only going to make you more impatient and resentful, right? So we don't want that. So you really need to try to do a lot of things to help yourself. And this webinar is just the first step. It's just the attitude, perspective, and empathy. And then we have all the other questions in the full class that I'm going to offer you. And those things are also going to help. For example, we focus on the issues like, well, I don't want to do this because I don't know what to do, right? So there's ways to figure out what to do. And basically that's by increasing your knowledge. The more you know about whatever it is you're dealing with, then the less stress you're going to have, and the more empowered you're going to feel being able to deal with it. Because you don't only have caregiving responsibilities as far as perhaps helping someone dress or feeding them. You also have the medical care side of it, and decisions have to be made, and maybe you're the one who has to make those decisions. So knowledge is really the key there. And if you can't keep up with the demands of your job and the family and the caregiving, like that woman in our little picture, right? Well, attitude and perspective and empathy will take you, a good chunk of the way to get started. But you also need to know how to minimize things from your day-to-day to-do list. You need to know how to balance, if balance is the right word, or I like the word cut out, things that aren't absolutely necessary. And, again, we prioritize, we focus life for a while. And there's ways you can do that without feeling like you are becoming resentful or that you've lost your entire life because you're spending it caring for this person. And the last thing you want to do is feel resentful. You want to feel that, hey, you know what, I've done my awful best for this person so that they could be as comfortable as possible and as independent as possible, as happy as possible, throughout the rest of their life, as the case may be. And let's not forget about the big one, guilt, right? So a lot of people feel guilty. Oh my God, I got to put my parent in a nursing home. I can't take care of them. I got to work. How can I work and take care of them all day in the house, right? So sometimes the best answer is to put them into long-term care or some other arrangement. And you have to not feel guilty. You have to weigh the pros and cons, think about what's best for that person, take into account their wishes, but what's realistic. And that's a whole topic in and of itself as well. And when you get to the point where you say, oh my gosh, I just can't do this anymore, I mean, absolutely, I just can't go through one more day, then that's the point in time, and hopefully you don't get to this point in time, and if you go through my class, you won't get to this point in time, but that's the point in time where you really need to reach out to more people for help, because you're probably trying to do it all yourself, or you're afraid to let someone else help because you're just not comfortable with it for one reason or another, and that you gotta have to let go and let other people help you. It's not easy either. Okay, but there's ways to do that. So, those are the other things. So when I say that in this webinar, oh yeah, just change your attitude and oh, just have some perspective and realize what they're going through. You may already are going down that path. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that's all there is to it. But what I am saying and do want to emphasize is that if you don't, the situation's not going to get any better, right? So even if you take 5 minutes for yourself at the end of the day, beginning of the day, middle of the day, just take, even if it's only 5 minutes, just get into the habit of taking 5 minutes for yourself, just for you. Meditate, or if you can get a half an hour, if you're a woman, take a bubble bath. I don't know, whatever is good for you. Go for a massage. If you're a guy, just watch the sports with a beer and have nobody bother you for 2 hours, 3 hours while the game's on. Do something for you. It's really, really important and really helpful. So in order to be patient, let's just review some of the things. In order to be patient, what for you gives you patience? Does it mean having less to do? Does it mean learning how to say no? Does patience for you mean you can go run over to whoever you're giving care for and be happy about it? So what does patience mean for you? What does resilience mean for you? So resilience is very related to patience, another key area that I like to talk about. And resilience is bouncing back from a situation. So, patience is dealing with a situation in a patient manner, being pleasant, being helpful, exuding good vibes. And resilient is, gosh, that was a tough situation. It's over now, and I need to bounce back. And when you're dealing in a caregiver situation, at least with Alzheimer's, dementia, the stages of care change over time. Things may be easy one year, difficult the next. And some things that are difficult today, believe it or not, are easier next year. So you need to be resilient, and you need to be ready to change how you're dealing with these challenges. And that's another skill too that's difficult. I'm not saying that's easy either. But what makes it easier is to realize that this is going to happen, right? So again, knowledge is power. So if you realize, and these are the types of things I like to share, if you realize that the same caregiving situation may change and be flexible, then you will expect it to change and you will be ready to be flexible. And believe me, it goes a lot easier that way. Okay. So long-winded answer to that question. And someone's asking a question about family. This is very complicated. And I'll be honest, I was very lucky. We were secondary caregivers. We caregave for our father, but our mother was the primary caregiver, so we were kind of helping her and sometimes helping him. But there were 3 siblings, 2 of us local, 1 was out of state. So a lot of people have an issue with, out-of-state family members who maybe call once a year, how's mom? And then 2 years later, they won't agree with the type of care that's being given, but they had nothing to do with the care all along. So, there's lots and lots of issues that go on. And again, more than I can talk about here, but it is a problem. And there are tips and tricks to try to minimize the family conflict when you're dealing with a parent who can't make decisions for themselves. And I offer, some suggestions, and I've learned some things from others, and in the course, some of those things are covered. Google is also your friend, and there is also chat boards at Alzheimer's organization, and I'm sure many others. I've seen quite a few out there. They're a little hard to weed your way through, though, because it's just all these comments and they're all over the place. So if you've got the patience or you find one you like, certainly it could be helpful and you can get some ideas. Just take the ideas with a grain of salt because everybody's situation is different. All right, so what's your next step? Your next step are to download and use the worksheets that I showed you. The next step is to practice daily what you've learned here. So you had 3 exercises to do to come up with an attitude adjustment tip, an empathy tip, and a perspective tip. So you can keep working on those and practice them. You can develop a plan to overcome your challenges. You can start a daily journal, which is very helpful too. You even just take 3 minutes at the end of the day, write down what went well today, write down your caregiver challenges for the day, write down how you think you could have done better or will do better, anything you want to do. But it's a place and time for you to think about what's going on, and it does help. Find an accountability partner to help you, another family member if you're a caregiver. Maybe you two work together through these tips. And I have a couple of bonuses for you for being here. There's a couple of free things at this link, and I will actually send an email out if you've come to the course, because these links on the screen won't actually click. But getyourselfstarted.com, and the specific page is welcome.getyourselfstarted.com/courses, but I will send you that email. It's the same site where you signed up for this webinar to begin with, actually. And a bonus is let me know how you're doing in 7 days. So email me at coachnancy@getyourselfstarted.com and just say, did any of these help you from 7 days from now? I'd like to know. Seriously would. I love this little poster, and I have some more things on my Pinterest. I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm telling you it's going to be worth it. So there's a lot of value in sharing with others, and there is a forum in my class. There's a lot of value in getting fast answers to questions. So as opposed to having a personal coach who you talk with twice a month, with this course you can ask a question anytime, and others in the course and or myself can answer it in a much quicker turnaround time. It's all online. It's not picking up the phone, but still you get faster answers. Much less costly than a one-on-one coaching. So really, a caregiver, at least for Alzheimer's dementia, they average 4 years of caregiving. In our case, there's more like 15, but again, different stages. But if it's 4 years of caregiving, I calculated the math. It comes to like 9 cents a day. This is lifetime access of this course. So ask yourself what the typo there, or what the motivational well-being is worth to you of being in the course with other people, and ask yourself what the positive impact on your career is worth to you, because if you can handle the stress, that means you're taking less time off from work, and potentially you don't have to quit, potentially you don't get fired under the guise of some other issue. So it's a serious impact on people trying to stay employed. I know I had a very hard time focusing at work. Would have to go in late, or would have to leave early, or all kinds of difficulties being on the phone, but mostly just not being able to focus on my job and doing a good job because I was worried about what was happening at home. So what's the positive impact of your career if you can get a handle on this and be the best caregiver that you can be? So I thank you for attending and hope that you learned something today that you can actually use that maybe you haven't heard before. and help spread the word so we can help more people be better caregivers, more patient caregivers, because it's only going to get to be a bigger and bigger problem as the years go by. Here are my resources. Twitter.com/getyourselfstar. It only goes up to the R because that's the limit that Twitter has. Facebook is spelled out. Get yourself started on Facebook. And Pinterest.com is Get Yourself Star again. I picked a long name. And also I can be reached at Coach Nancy at GetYourselfStarted.com. So I thank you for coming, and we are ending right on time, 1 minute over. And if you have any questions, do feel free to reach out to me. And this recording will be posted as well into the webinar. So thank you, and I bid you a good day.